relative frequency equal to class frequency divided by the sum of all frequencies. Okay, now, hold on for a moment. All right, we need to do that. So what I mean by that is this. What I mean by this is this right here. Let's say that you have this frequency right there. Can you guys see this little screen right here? Okay, that means that let's say that let's say you had a class, and your class was 3. Let me go ahead and write this down. That's not right. Right.
Maybe 6 to 8 one.
Yeah, 6 to 8. It would be 6 to 8.
Right. Okay, thank you. And then that's what? Okay, so that's going to be that. Okay, so let's say that was your classes, and here's your frequency, and there's 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? Okay, so now, basically what relative frequency is this. You sum these up. You add them up. Okay, so you have, how much do you have here? Well, you have 9, 10, 11, 12, plus 6, it gives you how much? Total of what? Sorry? 18. Okay, so now after you do that, relative frequency is basically 3 divided by 18, 4 divided by 18, 5 divided by 18, 6 divided by 18. You see that? That's basically what relative frequency is. You see that? So any questions on that? So basically relative frequency, and how did you get it? Well, here's the sum of the frequencies. Here's the class frequency. You take the class frequency divided by the sum of the frequencies.
It has to equal 100.
It has to equal 100, right. And then, basically, what percentage frequency is you're just taking these and turning them into decimals and multiplying them by 100. You're converting them into percentages. So do you see it's the same thing? It's just that one's a decimal, one's a percentage. Okay? So if it says relative frequency, they want the decimal. If they say percentage distribution, they're asking for the percentage, for percent. But it's the same number. Okay, one's a decimal, one's a percentage.
Can you leave it in fraction form? Or do you want it in...
Well, I would leave it, I would put it into decimal form. You put it into decimal form. The only reason I did that this way is so that you can see what it is that you're summing the frequency, and you're getting each class and dividing it by that sum. Okay? So you can see what's actually happening, what is actually going on there. So any questions on that? Okay, so now let's look at this. So this is basically what that's saying. So everybody finished copying that? Okay, it's on integrity, and I'll show you how to get integrity in just a little bit, okay? Now, again, here's some relative frequencies, okay? Here's percentage distribution. Now, cumulative frequency. Again, cumulative frequency, what that is basically, what does the word cumulative mean? When it says accumulate, what this is cumulative?
The total, the average.
You're adding, right? You're adding. Think of a snow plow. As it keeps on going, it what? Accumulates more snow, right? So as you go along, you're accumulating more and more. Let's look at our example here that we had before. Okay? Let me go ahead and see that example right there that we had right here. your cumulative frequency right here, can you see that? Okay, your cumulative frequency in this case, let me wind this a little bit up here, is basically you're going to take this one, that's your first one, 3. The next one's going to, you take 3 plus 4. What's 3 plus 4? 7, right? Then you're going to take 7 plus 5. What's 7 plus 5? Sorry? 12. Then you're going to take 12 plus 6. And what's 12 plus 6 going to be? 18. So you're accumulating each time. So you're adding them up each time. That's your cumulative frequency. So any questions on cumulative frequency? Any questions at all? Okay. So now that's cumulative frequency. And basically these are just frequency tables. So the only thing I'm going to do now is we're going to go ahead and go to the next thing. And that should be in your sheet, your worksheet right here. We're going to go to that worksheet. And work. Okay, so we have the data there, and you can see it's right there in your handout. So the first step we're going to do is to find the class width. So what you want to do is, first of all, is find the class width. In order to find the class width, your first step is to go ahead and find the lowest number and the highest number. So look at the data and find the lowest number and the highest number. Let me go ahead and... So let's go ahead and see. What's the highest number and the lowest number there?
The lowest is 125.
118, right? Okay. So your whole lowest number is 118. Okay, I'm sorry, your lowest number is 118. And what did you say your highest number was? 176. Okay, so 176 is your lowest number. Okay, so let's write that down, 176. Now, what do we do with those two numbers? We subtract them. So we're going to take and subtract the two numbers together. 176 minus 118. And we get what? 58, right? Now, one thing I haven't told you, but basically the tables there are going to tell you what they are. How many classes do I have? Well, let's count. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? 7 classes. Okay? So basically you have 7 classes. You're going to divide 58 divided by 7. Okay?
What did you get? It's 8.
Okay, I'm sorry?
It's 8 classes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 7 classes. You count it will tell you, basically they would tell you how many classes, but I forgot to put that down. But it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 classes. See that? See on the bars, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And again, that's going to be given to you. If you look at your textbook, if you look at your problems, they tell you. Use 7 classes, use 5 classes. They tell you what it's going to be. So what you're going to do is divide by the number of classes. So 58 divided by 7. So 58 divided by 7 is going to give you what? 8.2857, right? Okay, so what happens there? Okay, so 58, 8.2, whatever. You round it, and you said you round it, and that's correct. You round it. Now, what would you round it to?
To a whole number.
Okay, to a whole number. Why?
Because
they're all whole numbers.
Whole numbers on your data, right? Now, what are you going to round it to? If it's 8.2, what are you going to round it to? 9. You always round up.
Oh.
Always round up. Okay? So we're going to round it to what? To 9. So we're going to round it to 9. So somewhere in your worksheet, just say, okay, we're going to round it up to 9. Just put class width is 9. Okay? Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put it here because it kind of gives it all the way to you in what I have up there. So we have 9. So what is our first number? What we're going to do for the first lower boundary? I'm going to just use this right here. If you see this, can you see that? Okay. So I'm going to blow it up a little bit. Okay, so you can see that. Okay, so what is your first lower limit? What is the first number that we should put there? 118. So I put 118 right there. Okay? Now, how do I get the next lower limit? And that's the thing. Remember, you want to get lower limits first. Forget about upper limits. What's the next lower limit?
127.
So you added what to 118 to get that? You added 9, right? So you took 118 plus 9, and you got 127. And I'm putting it here, not there. Okay? See how I'm putting it down here, not right here. Then I add 9 again. What's 127 plus 9?
136.
136. Then I add 9 again, and you get
145.
145. Then I add 9 again, and I get what? 154. Then I add 9 again, and I get 163. Then I add 9 again, and I get 172. Now what I need to do here is that this one has to be one less of this lower limit, right? So, and it's one less because we have what for the numbers? Whole numbers, right? So we're going to subtract 1 from 127, and we get what?
126.
126. Now, I have 126. How do I get this number? There's two ways.
135.
135. And how'd you get 135?
I added 9 to 126.
Okay, good. You added 9 to that. You got what, I'm sorry?
135.
135. Add 135 plus 9, and you get what?
144.
144.
153.
153.
162.
162.
171.
And then what's the last one?
That's what I was going to ask. From 171, you still add 9, right?
171 plus 9, that gives you what?
180.
Can't you also go down an extra number?
Yes, you can. And then the first and the second, you just say, well, that's going to be your adding. Yeah, that's right. You can do that. But that gives you the numbers right there. Do you see that? So basically, when I have this, which was already tallied for you, already given them to you, right there. Now, after we have the class the class limits here, what is our next step?
You have to tally them up and see how many classes is between 118 and 126.
That's right. And what you're doing there is basically you're just counting. You're saying, okay, let's look at this. And again, here what they're saying is, see how this is whole numbers, and your class width is whole number, is a whole value, and your class limits are going to be whole numbers. See, they should match up. See, if your data is 10th place values, your class width should be in the 10th place values. Your class limit should be in the 10th place values. They should match up. Okay? And then, so now let's tally them. So basically, let's look at 138. Where does 138 go? It goes right here between 136 and 144, right? We're just counting them. Well, where does 146? Well, there it goes. What about 168? Where does 168 go? That's right. It goes down here, right? So we're tallying it. We're counting. That's all it is a count. 146 goes there. 161 goes over there. 164 goes into this class limit. 158 goes into that class limit. 126 goes on the top. 173 goes down on the bottom. 144 goes down here, and so on, right? Do you see what I'm doing there? So all I'm doing is counting them and tallying them, putting them in the right place. See? So all I'm doing is counting. And the count for each class is going to become its frequency. Okay? So all I did was count them, and then, now, how many tallies do I have for the first one?
3.
3. So your frequency for the first one is 3. See that? What about the second one? 5. What about the next one? How many should you have in the next one? 9, right? What about the next one? 12. What about the next one? 5. And the other one? 4. And the next one and the last one? 2. Okay, you've constructed a frequency table. That's how you construct a frequency table. So those two things are called frequency table. So are there any questions? What are we doing here? First of all, if you have raw data, your first step is to find the class width. How do you find the class width? Well, they got to tell you how many classes you have. Okay? They'll tell you it's 7, it's 5, it's whatever. Okay, once they have that, once you have the number of classes, what you're going to do is take the lowest number and the highest number and subtract it. And then you do that, you divide it by the number of classes. Basically what you're doing is you're spreading out the data, okay, and you're cutting it into even amounts. You're cutting it into how many classes you have. This time we have 7 classes, so you're cutting them into 7 even parts. And then what you're going to do is you're going to say, okay, from here to here is 1. We count how many numbers go into this one. We count how many numbers go into the next one, and so on. And that gives you your frequency table. Okay? So that's your frequency table. Are there any questions on that? Okay, after that, we talk about cumulative frequency. What did I say about cumulative frequency?
Take 3, add it to 5, add 5 to 9, 9 to 12.
Good, so you're adding them up each time. So your first one, you start with the original 3, right? So you start with 3. Now we're going to add 3 plus 5. So we get what? We get 8. We take 8 plus 9 and we get 17. We take 17 plus 12 and we get 29. We take 29 plus 5 and we get 34, right? We take 34 plus 4 and we get 38. We take 38 plus 2 and we get 40. Now I want you to see something here. I'm just going to go backwards here until I get the data. Let's look at the data here. How many numbers do you have up there? 40. And what is the last cumulative frequency here? 40, right? So it's your data. And here's another thing, and I do want you to write this down. Write this down. The sum of the frequency. This is a final exam question, by the way. The sum of the frequency is equal to your sample size. Now I'll tell you, this is a final exam question. You will see this on the first test and on the final exam. The sum of the frequency is equal to your sample size. Now there's going to be another thing I'm going to want you to write later on. And I don't want you to mix them up, because a lot of times students will mix them up. You've got to be careful about it. Now, we kind of skip relative frequency and we go to percentage distribution. But remember, they're the same thing. Relative frequency would be a decimal. Percentage distribution would be what? Just a percentage, right? Okay, so let's look at this. How do we get percentage distribution? Well, first we need to find the relative frequency. What did we say the sum of the frequency was here? 40. So remember, relative frequency is you take the frequency and you divide it by the what? by the sum of the frequency, right? So the first one would be what? 3 divided by
40.
40, right? 3 divided by 40, that gives you your relative frequency. Let me go skip this. We did this already, but in another worksheet. Okay, so 3 divided by 40, that's your relative frequency, right? It turns into a decimal of 0.075. That's your relative frequency right there, right? That's that 0.075. The reason I make a big deal about this is when you get to my math lab or my stat lab, they kind of change things around, okay? They go percentage distribution and they do relative frequency, okay? So you've got to know that both. And again, the only thing that this is your relative frequency. Move that 2 decimal places and you get your percentage distribution. What about the next one? How do I get it? You just tell me what the division is. 5 divided by 40. You're right. 5 divided by 40, right? So that's 5 divided by 40. And that gives you 0.125. Move the decimal place over, you get 12.5%, right? What about the next one? Forget about this 9. This one right here. What is it? Nine divided by what? 9 divided by 40. 9 divided by 40, and then you multiply by 100 or move the decimal place over, you get your percentage distribution, right? What about the next one? 12 divided by 40. What about the next one? 5 divided by 40, and the next one? 4 divided by 40, and the next one? 2 divided by 40, right? Okay, and that gives you your percentage distribution. So are there any questions on this? Are there any questions at all on this? Okay, now there's another way of doing this. Well, I better. No, I'm talking about the calculator. There's a shortcut on the calculator that you can do. And it just helps you. It's a tool to help you to count. Because sometimes what's so bothersome is trying to count how many numbers fit into each one of those categories. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm giving you this first, but let's go to the second page of that worksheet I gave you right there. Okay, now what that's describing is how you would do it if you want to do it in the calculator. So I'm going to show you how to do it on the calculator. Now I did not, because the problem here is that somebody else is teaching a statistics class in the morning, so they messed my calculator up, so I can't put numbers in there. So let's look at this right here. Now we can do the same thing.
I'm so sorry.
Now, when we're going to do this, let me go ahead and see. I think I put the calculator in there. No, I didn't. I had to shut the whole thing down so I could get the percentage to work. Okay, here we go. There it is. Okay, now what we could do is, now I have to get my original data. Okay, so let me go back to my original data. There it is. Okay, so what I would do is this, and you can follow along with me. Just go ahead and get to your calculator. Now, if you don't have a TI-83, just use the one in the computer screen. And by the way, if it's saying it doesn't work, it's not that it doesn't work. What you have to do is right-click and go to Properties, and it'll help. I mean, go to Properties and set it to the Windows NT on that where it says Run On. Okay. So basically, we have this. We turn it on. We're going to clear this up. Okay. Here's your first step, and here's the first thing about using the calculator. Now, and you're going to do this through the whole course, because you are going to have to use the calculator, okay? And it's the same thing what I tell people is this, yes, you can do it all by hand, but that's the same thing as would you rather to walk from here to Johnson City or would you rather drive from here to Johnson City? What's going to take more time? Same thing here. This is our technology tool that we tell the state that we use for our course. Now, we turn this on, we press Stat. The first step is to press Stat. Now, your first thing you're going to do is to enter numbers into the calculator. You do it by the edit mode. See where it says number 1, edit? You're going to press enter there. So we press enter on the edit mode. Somebody's already put in numbers in there, so we want to clear it out. So see here, this tells you where your cursor is going to be. See, just like any cursor, like a, what do you call it, one of those Nintendos or whatever. There we go. There's our arrows. So we're going to go here to the left. Now, we're going to go on to the top where it says L1, and you're going to highlight L1. You're going to press the button clear. Press the clear button. It says, well, it doesn't change. We'll press enter. And it clears it. You see that? If you have more than one list, if you have like 5 lists, and you have numbers in all of those 5 lists, the quickest way is to do clear list. And the clear list would be under Stat. And then you go to number 4, which says clear list, and press enter, and then highlight which list is that you want to clear. You have 6 lists, unless somebody's messed up with your calculator and it says something else, some gobbledygook stuff. Sometimes they do that. But it's defaulted to L1, L2, L3, L4, L5, and L6. Now, some people name them with different things. So if you borrow somebody from somebody else, just tell me and I'll go ahead and rename them. But now, again, you want to go to Stat and go down to Clear List. And then highlight which list it is. What's it, L2? Well, you press 2nd and 2 for L2. 2nd and 1 for L1. 2nd and 3 for L3. 2nd and 4 for L4. Do you see that? And it should say L and a little sub. Sub 2, sub 3, sub 4, whatever. And then you press enter. And all it says is done. Because it's done inside. It's internally done. So now you go to Stat. You go to Edit, and now it's clear. You see that? Now again, if that becomes hard, just go up to the top of the list. Just go up arrow and press clear. And it will do the same thing.
How do I get mine say L3, L4, and L5?
And you don't have an L1 and L2?
It's not showing it.
Okay, somebody's messed up with your messed up with your calculator, or she's messing up with your calculator or something like that. Just go over here. We'll go over here. Okay. Okay. Somebody deleted it. I just put it in there. But you do have stuff in it. So just go to the top. Go up arrow, all the way up to the top. All the way up. And we'll highlight L1 right here. That's a good one. A lot of numbers. Okay, now press clear. Press enter. Okay?
How did you have one?
I'm sorry?
How did you have one?
Which one?
L2.
Okay, press. Oh, okay, second. Okay. Now that we have this, our next step is, and you can do this, enter all those numbers into L1. How do we do it? Well, 138 and enter. 146 and enter. 168 and enter. Just do that.
We put all the numbers in one.
That's right, on this. Okay, so now, what I just did, I double checked on myself, and you need to do that. You're going to need to use the calculator throughout this class. It's really going to make it a lot easier on you, okay? And what you really want to do, have you ever heard the term garbage in, garbage out? It's the same thing, in computer terms, you say, if you put something into a computer, you're going to get, what you get. So if you put the wrong numbers in, you're going to get the wrong numbers out. So remember, double check, take the time on a test, take the time to enter the numbers correctly and check yourself before doing your calculations. It really is worth the time to check. So our next step is going to be this. Okay, we're going to go ahead and press the second button. Now once we press the second button, we're going to go ahead and press this one right here, stat plot. So it's second and y equals. Second and y equals. That gives you what they call the stat plots. Okay? So any questions on that? Second and y equals. Now, we're going to turn one on. Yes, here, right? See that yellow button there? Press that one, and that y equals be right there. Okay, now it's highlighted to the first one, so just press enter and you'll enter into that menu. It's a sub-menu, okay, it's a bunch of menus inside each other. Okay, now it should be saying on, but if it's not, just press here so that's highlighted on the on. You see that? Now you're going to go down arrow, and the one that you want, the type that you want, is this one. See, that's your histogram. You see the bars right there? That's a histogram. So you,
Can you do that one more time?
Okay.
I had to punch them all in again.
so where are you?
Second, after all the numbers are in.
Second and y equals. Okay, now press enter on that. Now it should be highlighted on the on. See how it's blinking and it says on? It should be there. If not, just press enter and then it's going to be blinking there. Now, go down arrow to the type. The type should be the third one right here. And press enter. Now do you see it's blinking on the bar graphs right there on the bar? So that's what you should have. Go down, and this should tell you what list you're on. If you put your data on L1, you put in L1. If you put your data in L2, you put in L2. If you put your data in L3, you put in L3. You see that? It's telling the calculator where to go to look for that data. The frequency just is what is it you're going to have on the y-axis. You're going to do it by ones. Okay, so it's just going to be by one. So just leave it at 1. Okay? Now, we have it all set. Now, we could just press graph, but what happens if we press graph is this. Your calculator is set on a 10 to 10, negative 10 to 10. Remember algebra? Negative 10 to 10, and then negative 10 to 10. Okay, that's the window that you have. You got 138, 160, so you're not going to see it. See, if I just press graph, you're not going to see anything at all. Okay, hold on for a minute. Somebody already messed with this one. Hold on. Oh, okay, I know what happened.
My window is 3,000 something.
Well, see, it depends on what the window is. Let me go ahead and... Okay, so but if you do this, which is what the default is, a 10 to 10, you're not going to see anything at all. Well, why? Well, look at your numbers. You know, it's nowhere near the 10 to 10, right? Negative 10 to the positive 10. So there's nothing in there. So what you do is you're going to press the zoom button, press the zoom, and there's one called zoom stat, which is number 8. You could just press zoom 8. In other words, press zoom and 8.
Do we have to push the graph?
I'm sorry, zoom and 9. Press zoom and 9, which is your zoom stat. I'm sorry, what was your question?
Do we have to push the graph before we push zoom?
No. Press zoom. I'm sorry. Press zoom and 9. Oh, you could have done this. Zoom and then go to number 9.
Can you,
I don't have nothing.
Can you fix my window, please?
Okay. Press the zoom button.
Look what mine did when I hit 9.
Zoom. Your step one's off.
Oh.
Yeah. It's still working. So let's turn it off. Turn it back on. It's on. So, okay, when you use this, okay. Oh, that's a really big number. 61. What's that? 164. Okay. Then we'll try this for the rounds. That was a pretty good number. Okay, it was not messed up. It was graphing. Okay, so zoom. No. There we go. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Now, so zoom stat, and when you hit that zoom stat, or when you do zoom 9, you get your numbers right there. I mean, you get your histogram. Now, here's the thing. It's a preset. I mean, the calculator does it itself. What was our class width? 9. So you have to set that. You have to force the calculator to make it at a width of 9. The way you do that is you go and you press Windows. So see, you go ahead and press Windows right there. You select Windows. And then on the minimum, now you want to do it a little bit below. Okay, you want to do it like 0.5 below, or you want to make a lower boundary. And what is that going to be? Well, 118 minus 0.5 will give you what? 117.5. So you want to do 117.5. Okay, and then on your X scale, that's going to be your class width. Where it says your X scale, it's going to be your class width, which was what? 9. Right? And then on your X max, well, what was your highest number? 180. You want to make it a little bit ahead of 180. So let's make it what? 180.5. Okay? Now the rest we can leave alone. Now we're going to graph it. Now don't press zoom again, because it'll reset to what you had before. Just press graph at this point. Press graph. Now how many classes did we have? You had how many classes? 7. How many bars do you have? 7, right? Okay, now, so what? Isn't it easier to do it the other way? Well, the biggest reason for this is this. If you press trace, okay, you will get your class frequencies right there without having to count numbers. See the first one? Let me go ahead and forward this so that you'll see that. Okay. Okay, see this? What's the first frequency? 3, right?
How did you do that?
Okay, just press the trace button. Trace button. Okay, so the first one, then go right arrow. What's the second one? 5. What's the next one? 9. What's the next one? 12. What's the next one? 5, 4, and 2. So do you have to do it with a calculator? Not necessarily, but you know, sometimes some people like to do that better than counting numbers. Now, if you feel better by counting numbers, that's fine. You can go ahead and do that. Okay, but I'm just giving you a tool to be able to do it the way you want to do it. Okay?
Okay, now could you give me the instructions to do?
Okay, go to the second page of your
Okay.
handout,
Okay.
and the instructions are right there.
I must have put in one of my numbers wrong because I got 6 of that one.
Yeah,
The rest of them-
and that's what I mean, garbage in, garbage out. You gotta be careful about that. I would triple check, because that's the most important thing. Okay, so now, that gives us that. Now let's look at and we did percentage distribution, right? Okay, now, the other thing I want to do, I gave you a handout. I would like you to try this with 5 classes. I want you to construct a frequency distribution. So what you want to write this is this. You want to draw this. I'll do it here. So what you want to do, you know, you can even do it on this page. Just somewhere in here, just draw yourself a table. You have your classes, okay? You have your frequency there. And all they're asking here is for frequency, so don't have to do the percentage distribution and cumulative frequency and all that. Just do classes and frequency. Okay, so what I want you to do is try to construct, and let's look at this, because we're wanting to do that, do try relative frequency and cumulative frequency, okay? But try that and see what you get. But I would like you to at least get to here. Classes and frequency with this. Go ahead and do that. Work it on your own. And look at this one right here. Okay, so now what was our first step? What did we do first? Remind me, what did we have to do first?
Find the class width.
Okay, so we're going to find the class width. How do we find the class width? What do we have to do?
Subtract the minimum.
The highest number minus the lowest number. Okay, and we get? And how many classes did they tell you to do?
5.
Okay, so how do we get the class width again?
Okay, about it.
We divide it by 5. So 58 divided by 5, and you get what? 11.6, which will round up. Why are we rounding it to whole numbers?
Because they're all whole numbers.
Because they have whole numbers, all right? Okay, so what is our next step? What is our first lower class limit?
67.
Okay, 67. So how do we get the next lower limits?
Add
Okay, right, and what is 12?
12.
Your class width, right? So we're adding 12. We add 12 again. We add 12 again, and 12 again, right? So how do we get the upper limits? Well, you got a 79 here. What is the upper limit for this one? 78, right? It's 78. So we get 78 for that one, right? So how do we get the next limits?
Same thing.
Right? Or we could, well, yeah, you could say 91 minus 1, right? Or we could add the class width again, right? Either way. Okay, now we have to tally. So what was the tally for the first one? Okay, so we're tallying them. Okay, so we get 3 for the first one. What do we get for the next one? 5, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, 5. So are there any questions on this? No question. Okay, so our next step is going to be to find what? Well, we're going to graph them, and the graphing, really, we're not really going to mess with a lot. And with this, boundaries, well, we'll talk about that later. Okay, now, I'm interested in relative frequency and cumulative frequency. That's what I told you to do, right? Okay, so let's look at that. Okay, relative frequency. How do we get the relative frequency?
About 3 and 30.
Okay, cumulative, not that. I mean, the relative, not cumulative. So, okay, what is your frequency? What is the sum of the frequency?
Start with 30.
Okay, I'm sorry, I heard we're not wrong. So, okay, so we take 3 divided by 30, right? Okay. Now, what about the next one?
5 divided by 30.
Good. 5 divided by 30, 8 divided by 30, 9 divided by 30, and what? 5 divided by 30, right? Okay, now we have relative frequency, right? Now, if we multiply by 100, we get what? What do we call it? If we multiply by 100, we get, what do we call it? Well, yeah, but I mean, percentage distribution. So, relative frequency, percentage distribution. When you get to my style lab, it's going to be a big difference on that, okay? So, percentage distribution, relative frequency. Questions? Okay, now what was the last thing I told you to do? Cumulative? Cumulative frequency? How do we do cumulative frequency? What do I have to do?
Frequency over
Cumulative frequency. So it's going to be 3 for the first one. It's going to accumulate. So it's going to be 8, 16, 25, and 30. It's accumulating, right? Think of the snow plow, accumulating snow. As you go on, the first one's 3. 3 plus 5 is 8. 8 plus 8 is 16. 16 plus 9 is 25. 25 plus 5 is 30. Keeps adding up. Okay? You're adding them up each time. Cumulative frequency. So we've got classes, frequency, relative frequency, percentage distribution. That's a cumulative frequency? Okay. So we have those. Can you do that? Okay. We had whole numbers. Now I'm going to do it for decimals. And because of the time concern, I'm going to do it with you. Okay? So let me give you this handout. Also, because I'm not quite sure that the PowerPoint is correct. I'm kind of worried about that. So let me give you this. Weight in dogs. Weight of dogs in pounds. Okay, so we're finished with this one. Okay, now weight of dogs, weight of dogs in pounds. Now, can you tell me the difference between this one and the last ones that we talked about? Right, this one has decimals on it. Okay, so that's going to be the difference. So let's see how we do that one. And I'm hoping this is correct. And we might have to switch around if we mess up on this one. I mean, if the PowerPoint messes up on this one, I might just have to do it on the board. Okay, so let's look at this. Let's look at the data. 49.8, 71.8, 65.9, 36.7, 52.4, 49.7, 70.8, 53. Okay, so we have all the data in there, right? Okay, now, what is going to be our first step? To find this?
Find the minimum and the maximum.
Okay, so we're going to find the minimum and the maximum. So how are we going to do that? Well, here's one way we could do it. Let's go to the calculator and put all the numbers into the calculator. So this is what I want you to do.
My number's different.
I'm sorry?
On this, move the calculator. Where you got 26.0 at the top in the middle, this one's got 26.6.
Okay, so put 0 for 26. 26.0. Where it says 26.6, put 26.0. Thought I had to change that. So where it says weight of dogs and it says 26.6, put 26.0. That's what I was saying that I was worried about.
Well, if that first sheet that I had printed out,
Uh-huh.
was wrong. It had 119 instead of 118.
Okay. So it should say 26.0. Everything, please check the other ones, make sure it's correct. Okay, so they should be correct, right? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to enter them into the calculator. So that's what I'm wanting you to do. Please enter them into the calculator. So it's 49. And I'm doing it in L2, okay? Does that confuse anybody? So what I'm doing is I'm using another list. Instead of L1, I'm going to use another list. I got 6 lists, and I can use any of those lists the same way, okay? So I have 71, okay, 65.9, 36.7, 52.4, 29.7, 70.8, 53, 51.2. Okay, so we have them all there, right? I want to give you another thing in the calculator. Well, what is the first thing that we have to do in order to, what is the first thing we have to do?
You have to go to count bars.
Well, forget about the calculator. What do we have to do for the frequency distribution? You got to send numbers. What's the first thing you have to do? Class width. How do I find the class width? What two numbers do I have to find?
Maximum and minimum.
Highest and lowest, max and min, whatever. Okay. So here's a way to find the max and the highest and the lowest in the calculator. We can sort it. We can go down here, go to Stat, and see the second one, Sort. That's sort ascending. Press Enter. Where did I put my numbers? In L2. So I sort ascending in L2, and it says Done. Now I go to Stat and go to Edit, and now it's been sorted for me. So I have my lowest is what?
Okay.
26, and my highest is going to be what? 71.8. Okay, so my lowest is 26, and my highest is,
I didn't know. Okay, stack, sort.
and now remember, where's your list?
I put mine in L1.
Okay, so put L1 in there. And enter.
Done.
Okay, now go Stat and Edit, and now it's in your list. It's sort of inside of your list. Okay, so now that we have that, so what's going to be my class width? Well, what's my highest and what's my lowest? Okay, so 26 was my lowest and my highest was? Okay, so we have 71.8 minus 26, right? Correct? So I enter and I get 45.8. Well, what is the class width in this one? Well, again, I didn't tell you, but look at the lines. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to divide it by what? By 6. Okay, now I get 7.6333. Okay, now, am I going to round this up?
To 8.
6. Okay, so it was 6. Okay, am I going to round this up to 7.68 or 7.7?
7.7.
7.7. Okay, so we're going to round that up to 7.7. Okay, so let's look at that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the handout here. So I have 7.7 for my class width, right? 7.7. Can you see that?
Little blurry.
Oh, they had fixed that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and zoom it a little bit. You won't see the data, but. Okay, so we have 7.7 there, right? That's our class width, correct? Okay, so what do I start with?
26.
Okay.
25.8.
26, all right? Okay, so now I do what? 26 plus 7.7, that gives me what? 33.7. Plus 7.7, and that gives me what?
41.2.
Okay, add 7.7, and that gives me what? Add 7.7, and that gives me what? 56.8. Add 7.7. 64.5. Now somebody here is going to say, whoa, wait a minute, let me see. It looks like there's going to be one that's not going to have something or something. Well, sometimes it happens, okay? So you might have one that doesn't have a number. It just depends on how you set these class widths. But we're just giving you one way of many ways that can be done. Okay? Now, how do I find the upper limits?
Subtract 1 from the 33.7.
Okay, and now here's the problem with this. Be careful with this. Now, if you subtract 1 from 33, what's going to happen there? You're going to get 32, right? That's going to mess up when you do your count. So what you're going to do is you're going to subtract from the last digit. So So 33.7 minus 1 from that 7. 33 point what? 33.6. So that's going to be 33.6 right there. What about here? 41 point what? 41.3. What about this one? 49. What about this one? 56.7. Okay, what about this one? Okay, 64.4. So how do we get the next one?
64.5 minus, no, plus 7.7. No.
You just act like you've been doing, right?
That's correct. 72.1,
Oh, duh.
right? What did I add? What did I add there?
7.7.
7.7.
That's right. If you take 33.6 plus 7.7, you get 41.3. If you add 41.3 plus 7.7, you get 49. So all you're doing is adding the class width. It's just a different way of doing it, okay? So now we have these. Now what is our next step? What do we have to do next? Tally them. And again, you can use the calculator or you don't have to use the calculator. I mean, it's up to you. If we use the calculator, now here's another way you can use the calculator. You want me to show you another way? It's easier. Okay, let's look at the classes. The first one goes from 26 to what? What number? 33.6. So let's go down here. Well, what's this? Okay, so it's below that, right? So you got how many numbers for the first one? In other words, 26 to 33.6, they're sorted out from least to highest. You go from 26 to 36.7. Well, how many numbers do you have for 26 to 33.6? In other words, how many numbers do you have for this right here? If they're sorted out. Well, you have one, right? See, you have that. Okay, for 33.7 to 41. Okay, so 41.3. So we have how many? 1.
Oh, I see.
See what I'm saying? 1, 2. 2 of them only, right? So we have 2 of them. You see that? I'm just counting them. I'm just counting them, but now I'm counting them in order. It's sorted. Okay, how about the next one? From 41.4 to 49, we have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's it, right? 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What about for 49.1 to 56.7? One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? This was 9 or 8?
8.
Okay, so how about the next one? You see what I'm doing? I'm just counting them. It's the same thing as counting, but now I have them in order from least to greatest. So I have what? 58.8. So that's 1, 2, 3. No, I'm sorry, it's 2 only, isn't it? Because that 60.9 goes over the. Oh no, it doesn't.
No, it's
65.9 is the one that goes over. You got how many?
3.
You got 3 of them? Okay, and after that, what do you get? 65.9. 1, 2, 3. So you got 3 of them. Now you can do it that way, or you can go ahead and just go second stat plot. Okay, now we have to change this. Instead of L1, it's what? L2, right? And then zoom and 9. And then my window. Now I had 26, so I'm going to make it into 25. Instead of 0.5, let's see, because I'm going to the 10th, okay, just go ahead a little bit. 25 is good. All you just want to do is a little bit to the left of that number, 26.
So this is the part I'm going to forget.
All you want to do is a little bit to the left of that. Okay, you just give yourself a little bit of space. Okay, so the max, give yourself a little bit ahead. There's some other things like boundaries, but you don't really need to know it. All you need to do is just a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right. You just want to widen a little bit so that you can see the whole thing. Okay, and then we had 72. We can make what? 73 or something like that? A little bit ahead? I just put 43 tonight. 73. Okay, what was our scale? What was our class width?
6.
7 point.
Oh, yes.
7.7. Now we graph it. Okay, see, I did a little bit to the right. I should have done a little bit more. And that's what you can do. See, all you're doing is widen it. See, when you graph it, all you're doing is make it 80. There, see? See that X max is you're just getting that X axis farther and farther ahead. Now, how do we get the numbers? Trace. 1, 2. That should have been 6. We miscounted somehow. 10, 3, 2, and 1.
Yeah, mine's said different.
Okay. Then what we did when we counted?
It says the same thing as your calculator.
Okay, yeah, I miscounted. Somehow we miscounted. The calculator's right. So somehow we miscounted somewhere. That's why I like the calculator, because the calculator does it correctly. But we must have miscounted somewhere.
Wow, we did it 3 times.
Yeah, we counted. Well, that one was right. That one was right, right? Okay. Then this one is where we should have 6. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
7, 8.
Okay, let me see if we did the right one. We did L2. We did 7.7. Okay, we're out of time, so what we'll do is that I'll go over this again next time.
Oh, the code for the course number.
Okay, the course code number. Okay.
You give out study guides too, like for
Test. The test, yes. Not quizzes. And by the way, speaking of quizzes, if you look at the calendar, is there a quiz next time?
next Thursday.
Next Thursday. So next Thursday you have a quiz. Okay, whatever the calendar is saying. Yeah, and the course code, I'll put it on D2L, but here it is. You're dying to go. But I gave you the handout. That's how you get in there. Okay, your course code, and you need to get to D2L. Is this one right here, Melendez 82085. Melendez 82085. So write that down, Melendez 82,085.
Can I have a calendar?